Hello, Adam Kopecz, Excel lover from Poland. Today we're gonna talk about logical tests and if function. And we're gonna start with logical tests. We want to check if our student passed the exam. So if the number of points they scored on exam is equal or bigger than the number of needed points, so the number of points in cell D2. And we want to start with logical tests. So we start our formula and we are checking if the value from B5 is greater or equal to the value from D2. And we lock value cell D2 with F4 key. And we have our logical test. And we can put it in the cell and copy it down. And we have our logical answer. So false when the number of points is lower than our threshold, and true if the number of points is at least as big as the number of needed points. But logical answer aren't really human answer. So in most cases we want some simple text, and we will work with if function to get those results. So we are starting in the D5 cell, writing our if function, and we are starting with writing logical test, but we write our logical test, so we just check the value from C5. And if the value from C5 is true, so our logical test return true, then if function will return her second argument value if true. If the logical test return value false, then if function will return her third argument value if false. And we decide that we want text, simple text like pass and fail. So in the value if true argument, we are writing in double quotes text pass, and in the third argument value if false, we are writing text fail, also in double quotes. We are adding closing parentheses, and this is our whole formula. So we can put it and copy it down. And now instead of logical answers, we have more human-like answers. So if the logical test return false, our if function will return fail, text fail. If our logical test return value true, our if function will return text pass. So we have more human-like answer. And we want one more example with if function. This time we want to answer simple question: how many more points to pass? So if our student failed the exam, we want to write how many more points he needs to reach our threshold. And we start writing if function. This time we are changing the direction of our test. Now we are checking the value from cell B5 is lower, like it's smaller than the value from D2, and we lock the value in D2 with F4 key. And this time, like if the number of points is lower than the value from D2, it means our student failed the exam. So we have to calculate how many more points he needs. And it's just simple mathematical operation from value from cell D2, F4 to lock it, we're subtracting the value from B5. And this will be our answer if student failed the exam, like the number of points is lower than 70. And if the student passed the exam, so our logical value, like logical test return false, we don't need to calculate any answer because our student passed the exam, so he needs 0 more points to pass. And we can and our formula, put it in a cell and copy it down. And this time we have 8 and 35 when the student failed the exam, so the number of needed points. Okay, so we, in like summarizing, 2 of our students failed the exam, and for those students we calculate how many more points they needed to have to pass the exam, and all the other students, they pass the exam, so they don't need any more points, so we have 0 in a column.